Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching this brief version of our ag forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions. I'd like to start in the same place I did for the extended version, and that's by looking here at the National Temperature and Precipitation ranks maps. June 2021 ranks as the warmest June on record, and our records go back about 127 years. But as we get down to the state level, let's look at the statewide average temperature ranks, and you can see the extreme heat in the west now breaking those all-time records, and also quite hot in the northeast. But across parts of the southern plains to the southeast, even at times it was quite a bit cooler than normal. Now, if we look at the same state level maps, but turn our attention over to precipitation, it kind of jumps out at you pretty quickly here that South Dakota had its driest June on record, with Montana having its second driest and Idaho at the fourth. Come across the southern plains, though, getting into the lower Mississippi River Valley into the south and southeast, and even on a line extending like from the Red River Valley here into parts of Michigan. Very, very wet at times throughout the month of June. Now that's our setup for where we're going in this forecast, because when we look at soil moisture, it's those areas like here in the Red River Valley of the North, parts of the upper Midwest into Minnesota that have been dry. There's been some recent storms, I'll show you in a few moments, in parts of South Dakota coming out of Montana, but a lot more precipitation is needed here to fill in some of those gaps. Meanwhile, south of that line over to the northeast, cutting through the lower and mid-Mississippi River Valley, things have been quite wet. And the Pacific Northwest continues on its very hot and dry streak. But we're going to ask ourselves if that pattern is going to adjust. First, our last 7 days. Cutoff low over Texas, Tropical Storm Elsa, producing major flooding all along the coast, but specifically in the northeast. And then we had that wet weather that is stretched right in through this area that's extended into the northeast. But what I want to draw your attention to here are some of the places that have missed out on these rains. Maybe a better way to look at that is to instead look at the last 7 days, a little different projection here, but the last 7 days in terms of the percent of normal precipitation. Now you can see what's going on in the Red River Valley toward Minneapolis, coming out of this part of Iowa near Cedar Rapids, cutting across southern Wisconsin, and in pockets in the eastern Corn Belt. There's this corridor in through here that's been missed, and the interior of the Appalachian Mountains, have been missed as well. So it's just some perspective on this recent precipitation. Now, where are we going? Tropics first. With the advancement to the north of the Indian monsoon, which happens this time of year, we do expect this area to have the best rising motion coming out of the tropics. And just generally speaking, if that's where most of the rising motion is, and therefore the MJO, we're going to watch for suppression in this area. Now, the consequence of that is we do expect for much of the next 10 days to have very little tropical cyclone activity, and the National Hurricane Center is on board with that. They got the next 5 days kind of pinned down as having no new tropical cyclones developing, but it may extend to the end of July that we don't see much going on there. The other piece of this flow pattern I'm going to discuss with you is going on with our momentum. Now, we lost angular momentum in the atmosphere throughout the month of June. That tends to lead to an atmospheric pattern that gets blocked up a lot more. And we saw those huge blocking patterns over the Pacific Northwest where we set those records. Well, momentum is slowly starting to increase, but it's where it's increasing I want to pay attention to. Because between 30 degrees north and 60 degrees north, this is an area that we watch, especially for North American weather, that if there's high momentum, in other words, these warmer colors, we do expect to see a lot more routine weather systems. And just notice you don't see that. So what is changing? A lot of this forecast is going to break down to this figure. It's something called the East Pacific Oscillation, or EPO. It's positive through the 16th and 17th. And then drops off after that. Now, what does that mean? Well, this is basically telling us what the jet stream's doing coming out of the Gulf of Alaska. And historically, when the EPO is positive like this, all right, what you tend to get is more of your warmth concentrated in the west, with a better chance of being cooler coming out of the plains into the Midwest, even down into the southern plains. Now, if we end up seeing the EPO go negative, like you see here, like this, okay, that would mean you take this color pattern and start to reverse it. And that's going to be a mainstay of what we're going to discuss. We expect a ridge to develop into this area as the jet stream slowly adjusts to this new pattern. Let me show you what I mean. As we play through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of this week and get toward the weekend, you start to see this pattern taking shape. Ridge here, downstream trough. Ridge developing there, coming out of the Four Corners, cutting into Montana, and then eventually into parts of Saskatchewan and Manitoba. The pattern's going to stay like this for much of week 2. And what you end up getting is drier conditions here, but there will be a frontal boundary parked there that's going to keep much of this area wet. I want to talk about that. So let's first go out and just get a big picture view of things. Next 15 days from the 12Z European ensemble. Over the next 48 hours, severe storms through here. We're going to talk about that in a few moments. We had the severe storms today in the northeast. Upper level low cutting out of Illinois, bringing a lot of scattered storms from the southeast, but then wrapping around this low as it moves up toward Ontario. And then a frontal boundary parks right in through here, increasing rainfall in the south, over into the mid-south as well. In the southwest, there are hints of a stronger kind of time period here of the southwestern monsoon. We'll get ring of fire precipitation around that. That's a lot going on, but just take a look at this next 15 days, and now we'll start to break this down for you. Severe weather first. I'm just showing you the 3 graphics all lined up here. We do notice today the severe weather threat is here in the northeast and along Florida. Tomorrow, I'm going to keep an eye again on Pennsylvania, but we're going to watch a little shortwave come out of the Pacific Northwest and start to dive down through parts of South Dakota. And where this gets us by the time we get to day 3, which is Wednesday, is a pretty large area we're going to be watching here for severe storms. All right. Now, to see those, I'm going to take you to the high-res NAM model, the 12Z run. As we play through this evening, you can see the cutoff low spinning in this area. So that's the widespread scattered storms here, and that's going to move off in this direction. As we then get into the morning tomorrow through midday tomorrow, take a look at this. And then also watch what's going to happen over here in Pennsylvania as this cutoff low moves in this direction. Ready? So as we play through, this is now 5 p.m. Tuesday. Possibly some strong to severe storms here. Scattered storms in the Ohio River Valley. There's a weak front right in through there. This is the shortwave coming out that's going to excite the severe weather into this area. And you're going to notice pop-up storms around the Four Corners Ridge. Ready? So Tuesday evening into the overnight hours, now into Wednesday morning. Now what you're seeing is the storm system race through this particular area, returning rainfall to South Dakota, parts of Iowa, and Minnesota. And as that goes through, big questions to be answered is how much rain do we get in that dry pocket I highlighted there? That's what we need to take a look at. So over the next week, let's boil this down to the latest European ensemble forecast. Next 48 hours here. Storms through midweek in the northeast. We see the upper level low cutting out of Illinois, heading to the north, and then after that, we're going to leave our frontal boundary sitting right here. What happens into the southwest is the southwest monsoonal flow, which curls around like that. Notice who is missing this rainfall. The Northern Plains Canadian Prairie. And that's an area we need a lot more of it. Scattered storms all along the Gulf Coast here. So take a look, that's what we've got. Now to show you this precipitation accumulating, I'm going to take you over to our high-res European model, and let's just walk this forward again. So here we go, through the night tonight into tomorrow morning. Upper level low, severe storms. Next low right here, and that cuts through. And as you can see, according to the European model, the wettest conditions are there. Now after this, a frontal boundary lingers. See it cutting through. Look at this. This is Thursday into Friday. Coming through Illinois, lower Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. And then it parks right here and just slowly slides south into early next week. And that's where the rainfall adds up. That takes you out 10 days in an operational run. This is a large area that is expected to miss out on all 10 days. And after the rain comes through here, it's going to be much drier after that. To show you the model comparison, this is the GFS compared to the European. Just a reminder, this is where the GFS is wetter. This is where the European is wetter. So notice, the European is wettest through here with that next system. The GFS is wetter farther to the south. That's a major difference in the trajectory just in the next 48 hours. Overall, they agree for the most part on the pattern as it's going to shake down. Now by day 10, the ridge is expanding. See that? There's that negative EPO. Ridge expands, and this is what we end up getting in terms of the precipitation pattern. The boundary lingers here, the ridge builds into the northern plains, and we're drier in this area. Ring of fire precip sets up over the Intermountain West, and the model does show drier conditions along the coast, but there will be pop-up storms there. But the front lingers here. The European model suggests something similar. Let's look at it in 2 different ways. This is the next 10 days looking at probability of getting at least an inch. So we'll watch that carefully. But can you see right in through here where if the storm system sags south, that area increases, but otherwise it won't. Where the lingering boundary will sit, that's where our best chances are. There's our southwestern monsoon. From there, let's just look exclusively at week 2, but now instead of looking at probabilities, let's look at anomalies or differences from normal. So that's where the boundary is going to linger. Higher pressure builds into this area and it goes drier. The heat stays on the western side of this. I'll show you that in a moment. But look at that signal for the southwestern monsoon. That is a robust signal. I do expect a lot of lightning to run the periphery of this. So the temperatures over the next 5 days, the heat's going to come out of the west and start to expand into Montana, the western Dakotas, into the Canadian prairie. And as we go from day 5 out to day 10, now you see it. That's the effect of that change in the jet stream position over the Gulf of Alaska. We're cooler in a broad sector here, or at least near normal in terms of temperatures. And that has been a persistent factor. And in my longer extended video, I'm going to discuss in there what's controlling the fact that much of the time period of about July 22nd through the middle of August keeps that pattern going. But we don't seem to shut down the Gulf of Mexico, which means the models are just keeping the pattern open to rainfall here. This is the area that I'll watch most carefully to see how dry it stays, because I think the models have overdone the rainfall in that area. But I discuss more of that in the longer extended video, so check it out, okay? Appreciate your attention. We'll talk to you again on Thursday. Thank you.